Well, before my case of Pac-Man fever goes away completely, let's take a look at another interesting iteration of Namco Museum, Battle Collection for the PlayStation Portable. Developed by the same division of Namco that made these games, Battle Collection is a little more than the average Namco Museum game and is probably one of the few versions I can gladly recommend. The game features a healthy 16 classic games in its library. In this edition we have Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Dig Dug 2, Galaxian, Galaga, Rally X, New Rally X, Xevious, Modos, Mappy, Grobda, Bosconian, King and Balloon, Dragon Buster, The Tower of Druaga, and Rolling Thunder. So yeah, those are all the classic games. So what's new to this version? Well, aside from the 16 classic games, it also features 4 revamped games called Arrangement games. You've got Pac-Man Arrangement, Dig Dug Arrangement, New Rally X Arrangement, and Galaga Arrangement. Now I know what you're thinking, and I'm just going to get this out of the way right now. Don't get these games confused with the other games that also call themselves Arrangement. They are both completely different games, and I honestly have no clue why these new games have to bear the same name. But whatever, let's just take a look at each of these individual Arrangement titles. First and foremost, we have, big shock, Pac-Man Arrangement. The goal is still the same as ever. Eat the dots, avoid the ghost, pop a pellet, and down the hatch. We all know this formula like the back of our hands at this point. So to keep the game from feeling too familiar, Pac-Man Arrangement has added in a few gimmicks here and there to keep the game relatively interesting, such as these moving doors, elevators, dash boots, and jumping wings. There's even boss battles thrown into the mix where the ghosts have doubled in size and are occasionally wielding some heavy machinery. They may seem threatening, but gulping down a power pellet will easily bring them down in numbers. While I don't feel this holds a candle to the fast-paced madness of the original Pac-Man Arrangement, its additional gimmicks don't really harm the experience. It's easily the more entertaining of the Arrangement games. Next up is Dig Dug Arrangement. With what's probably the shortest of the Arrangement games, Dig Dug features the same underground, monster-popping frenzy the original game provided. You still have the typical Pukas and Figars, but this game also introduces a new slew of enemies, such as these stoneheads that drop a rock when you pop them, these cutesy bags that only go down like so, and these obnoxious worker ants that can dig through the playfield, just like you! Along with that, you've got some power-ups that you can activate pressing the square button. You've got faster moving shoes, a more powerful pump, and these gelatins that I honestly have no clue what they're for. You've also got a slew of bosses that either require you to pump until they pop, or bash their brains in with these boulders. It's a pretty good rendition of Dig Dug that only suffers from some annoying boss patterns, and a forgettable rendition of the main theme. Now we have New Rally X Arrangement. Much like the original, you take control of a blue car and have to find all the flags in the level while avoiding the enemy red cars. With each world you go through, you're given the same criteria in order. First, you just have to gather all the flags. Then you have to gather them and find a goal to exit the level. Then you have to gather all the flags while stealing some from the red cars. And finally you go through the second mission all over again. Gimmicks-wise, you've got the typical oil slicks, but you also have these jumper pads which launch you into the air, and what's probably the most annoying gimmick in the entire collection, off-road sections. These cars were not made for these sections, and it's easy to lose control and end up getting smashed by the red cars. But otherwise, New Rally X Arrangement is a fairly enjoyable take on the original, but those off-road sections. And finally, we have Galaga Arrangement. And I'm just going to be honest right now, in my opinion, it's probably the weakest of the Arrangement titles. It's not a bad game, but it really doesn't feel all that impressive. You go through 6 worlds of nothing but mashing the shooting button while taking on a whole bunch of space bugs. Aside from the bosses, there isn't much else to the game. Even the challenging stages feel like a cheap excuse to pad out the game, what with it not containing any neat quirks like additional music to go along with the incoming armada of bugs. Not much else I can say, but I really wish Namco would look to a better shooter to make an Arrangement out of, like, say, Gaplus? And that pretty much sums up Battle Collection. It's a pretty good collection of Namco titles, and is one of the few versions of Namco Museum I could recommend wholeheartedly. With the exception of Galaga Arrangement and the later half of New Rally X Arrangement, it's an all-around stellar game for Namco enthusiasts. Now, if only there was another version of Namco Museum that would do a reimagining of Pac-Land.